it's always seemed bizarre to me that we expect people to know what they want to do with the rest of their lives when they're 18. And I'm living proof that is not how it goes. I mean, I've changed careers several times now, and you really have to figure out who you are as a person, I think, until you know what you want to do. So trust your gut, trust your instincts.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the UAZ Podcast. This afternoon we have our first podcast of the year 2026. So we are really excited to have Caitlin with us. She is an editor and publisher of Tucson Spotlight, and she previously worked for the Arizona Daily Star and has been reporting on Southern Arizona for over 15 years. So she has a lot of experiences, and also she was a professor here in the School of Journalism. So in this same building. So we're really excited because we're going to learn so much from her. And I have Nicole here with me.
Yes.
She's going to help with host, yes, for the podcast. So thank you so much for being with us here today. And we're really ready to learn from you, from your journey being in the news for over 15 years. So what really inspired you to be in this field?
You know, I enjoyed talking to people and hearing their stories. I had originally gone to school for nursing and got out into the field and did not enjoy it. And one of my friends said, you should come wait tables with me. It's better pay, it's better hours. And it was better pay and better hours. But really the only thing I liked about that was talking to people. And I learned that, I mean, if you talk to anyone long enough, everybody has some interesting piece of their story to tell. So eventually I kind of found my way to journalism and have never looked back.
That's great. When you talked about like talking to people for a long time, you learn something new. Nicole and I have experienced this a lot because we've been interviewing guests, and each time we interview them, we really learn so much from them. Sometimes they send us their bios and we read through that and then do a lot of like background more information about them. But even that, it's not always enough. But after talking to them for a long time, we always learn so much from them. So they always bring in a lot of great insights. So like after you changing from your field of nursing career and then you came to news, like how did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that shift?
I did. I liked it a lot. It was interesting going back to school as an adult student. I was much older than my classmates, but after working as both a nurse and then waitressing and bartending, it was really easy to approach strangers. And I think that's one of the things that students struggle with the most at first is it feels weird to like go up to a random person and ask them very personal questions. But in a healthcare setting or when you are literally trying to get people to like you, to give you tips, you learn to get really good at it. So it was a smooth transition. I always liked being in school, so it was fun going back, not so much the homework, but I enjoyed my classes and really, you know, I had lived in Tucson. I moved here in 2003 and I'd lived here for almost 10 years by the time I started journalism school, and there were parts of town that I still did not get to know until I was in this position where I was learning about the community. We really kind of get siloed and we stay on our own parts of town and our areas, but the journalism school gave me the opportunity to really learn about Southern Arizona.
And I think that was really a very great background coming from the nursing program and then shifting it to the journalism style, because one thing that I found out is that people who are doing medicine mostly, they are always the nicest people around because they are taught those skills, how to approach people, how to talk to them, since like most people who come to them are people who are looking for solutions, and so they're really taught those skills. And then coming to journalism, you still have to have those personalities, and so you had that experience. And then coming to do it this way, I think one of the best decisions that you made. So then how can students know when it's time to choose values over comfort, when to shift? Because sometimes we do things that we think like maybe we are passionate about, because before you chose nursing, you were really passionate about it. You wanted to help the people, and then afterward you shifted. So when can we realize that it's time for us to shift?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really got to trust your gut. And I think one of the things that young people are so good at is reading their body and their emotions and how they feel and knowing when something is not okay and when it's not serving you well. There was, I mean, baby boomers, Gen X, they were really kind of taught to deal with, you know, play the cards that you were dealt with. You're in this situation, make the best of it. It's important that you work to live, and that's just not the way it works anymore. You know, most people don't want to work to live. They want to live to work. I mean, it's, you know, you really want to be enjoying what you do and how you feel. And so, I mean, if you're in a situation where you're not totally happy or you don't feel like you're thriving, or if you're getting off work and you're sitting in your car crying at night, maybe that's not the right place for you. So, I mean, you really have to trust yourself and how you feel. And if you have the ability to shift and pivot and experiment, do it. It's always seemed bizarre to me that we expect people to know what they want to do with the rest of their lives when they're 18. And I'm living proof that is not how it goes. I mean, I've changed careers several times now, and you really have to figure out who you are as a person, I think, until you know what you want to do. So trust your gut, trust your instincts.
I love Tucson Spotlight. I've been reading, and I love your TikToks as well. I think one of the best ways to give information to others is by social media. So I love how you guys are doing that. But it's what kind of gave you the idea to start Tucson Spotlight?
So I had been working at the Arizona Daily Star for my whole career, and they had... Layoffs are very common in traditional media, and in 2023 we had a particularly brutal round of layoffs that really cut some essential coverage, I believe. They cut the entire Spanish language desk in a community that is 40% Hispanic. They got rid of our opinion editor. They laid off the editor-in-chief who had been there her entire career as well, almost. And made some decisions about coverage going forward that was, they weren't going to fill some of these beats that they got rid of, but they wanted to lean into things like breaking news. And I had been spending the previous year or two doing a lot of audience engagement and community listening, and that is not what people said that they wanted. They wanted news that helped them informed, news that gave them tools that they could use, news that made them feel hopeful and uplifted, not that made them feel afraid and whatnot, which is what a lot of breaking news is, right? It's accidents, it's shooting, it's a lot of the crime coverage that we see today. And I just didn't feel like my values were in line with the outlet that I was working for anymore. And it also was pretty clear that, at this point, we were kind of all just waiting around to get fired, because that's what was happening. People who were really good at their jobs, who had given this place their entire lives, were just being let go. So, I decided that I would rather try something new on my own and fail than do something that I didn't feel totally invested in and just kind of wait until they didn't want me anymore. So I initially started another outlet called Tucson Agenda with a pair of partners, and we had a lot of fun doing that for a year. It was very focused on government and politics, which there definitely was a need for that coverage. But one of my partners ended up moving out of state, and I once again did not feel my values lined up with them anymore. You can't report on Tucson if you don't live here. It's just, that's a huge, we have media outlets all over the place that are doing that, and it's not quality news, and people know that. So I didn't feel like I was aligned with their mission anymore, and decided once again it was kind of time to do something on my own. And so we pivoted, and here we are. And we tried something totally new. It was a really lean operation at Tucson Agenda. It was just the two of us, and now we're almost a 30-person newsroom, just because we have been investing in young talent and really wanting to provide a space for students like you all to get the experience that you need to find out, first of all, if this is something that you even want to do, and if it is, so that you have the skills, the tools, the clips that you need to get a job when it's time.
Yeah, we interviewed our advisor for the club, and one thing that he said that really stuck out to both of us is to intern at a young age, so you know what you like, what you don't like. So I am very thankful you're giving that opportunity for students for here at the U of A or also ASU.
U of A and Pima, and we're working with a couple high schools now as well.
That's great.
Wonderful. I love that. Yeah. So you said that journalism people were getting layoffs. So many students feel pressured to follow a safe and traditional career path. What advice would you give students that feel pressured into going into that career and wanting to make a meaningful impact? Yeah,
I think looking at the state of the world right now, no career is really stable, right? The federal government changes hands and money gets cut and people lose jobs that they never thought they would lose probably. So, I think journalism nobody has really ever thought was a stable career, but I think it's really important to do something that you're passionate about. Everything has risks, but if you can find a way to balance it and make things work. I mean, a lot of my young reporters that are on staff are part-time and they're doing something else just because I don't have the ability to give them full-time hours. But, they really want to do this, so they're finding a way to do this while doing something else. And the goal is to build up enough to be able to bring everyone who wants to full-time. But, I mean, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way to make it work. I worked 2 and 3 jobs the entire time I was going to journalism school just to support myself. But, we live in very uncertain times, and I just don't think there's a lot of stability anywhere. I understand we get a lot of pressure from sometimes our parents and whatnot to follow traditional paths, but, you can go be a doctor, but then you also end up with tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt hanging over your head. And same thing with a lot of those traditional stable careers. They cost a lot of money to get into. So I really appreciate that we're seeing more diversification in the workforce. I really appreciate that we're seeing people at like a high school level let students know that it's okay if you don't want to go to college. There are other ways to find a meaningful career path. I think organizations like JTED here are so cool. I mean, those students graduate from high school at 18 and can take professional certification exams right away and go like work as a vet tech while they're taking their classes. I mean, that kind of stuff is awesome. So, nothing is certain, nothing is stable except for the things that make you happy. And that's the one thing you can be certain about is what you like doing, and I follow that path.
I think that's true. When you do something that you love the most, is that because the reality is everything has got challenges. No matter what you think it's going to be stable in the next 50 years, 20 years, it still has challenges. So once you find something that you really love, even if it has challenges, you'll always wake up and say, I really chose this on my own. And when you talk about the JTED pathways, 2 of my siblings did that, and one of them fell in love with cybersecurity because she went through JTED, and right now that's her major. I think helping this young high school students involved very early is always important, because that's when sometimes they don't even know what's happening, or they don't even know what pathways you can take as a news reporter. But once they're in that organization, they kind of see it in different angles, and they develop more passions. Because at times we may not have passions because we don't know what's out there. But when we are given those options, of course we come to realize that. And so at the moment, when it comes to the Tucson Spotlight centers, it's undercovering communities and emerging journalists, which you've just talked about. So why is it so important to represent media in so many ways, and how can students, regardless of their majors, use their voices to uplift others?
That's such a good question. I mean, media representation is so important. If people don't see people in the news, I mean, even in pop culture that look like them, that live like them, it's hard to relate. You don't feel seen. It fosters empathy. It fosters understanding. When we don't have good representation in the media, we see an increase of negative stereotypes. I mean, and a lot of times, especially with communities of color, the only time the news ever comes in is when it's something bad. We see that a lot with Native and Indigenous communities. We hear a lot about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, but we don't hear a lot about what's happening on tribal lands. What are people doing to support community members? What else is happening? So, I mean, it's really important to show up all the time, and not just when it's bad news out there. And I mean, young voices are an important part of that mix too, right? We have so many newsrooms that are staffed largely by people over the age of 35, over the age of 30, and you're leaving out a whole generation. And I mean, young people, I think y'all are going to turn out for the next couple elections and change the tides a little bit. And so it's really important that we are giving young voters, we are giving everybody who consumes news somebody that they can relate to, that they feel like they can trust, that they feel like understands them and their community and their needs. And with young journalists, I mean, if we're not giving them these opportunities, we're not going to have journalists in the future. So it's really important to get them in there early. It'll be a lot easier for them to find jobs if they already know what they're good at, if they have these skills built up. And so, and with social media as well, I love that is it's like a whole separate type of journalism on its own. And we have embraced it so much because we know that there are people out there that are never going to read a news article, that are never going to watch the TV news, but they do get their news from TikTok and Instagram, and they need to find reliable and even entertaining news. So I really love what my team has done with that. And what's interesting is we always thought, at the Arizona Daily Star, we had been told for a long time that people who consume news on social media are not going to visit it on your site. And we see a ton of click-throughs on our reels. So a lot of the people that are watching our reels want to learn more. So, I think if you can inform people in a fun way about the things that matter and give them people to relate to, we can really change the world.
That's true, because we've been seeing that on our Instagram, because usually we post most of these videos on YouTube, then we pick up a few shorts and then post them on Instagram. So each time we do that, if something picks up to somebody, they usually go and watch the long video and be like, yeah, because I saw the short one and, I got interested into that. And I've seen a lot with TikTok is when people when it comes to the news reporters, when they usually post those short reels, when people are interested in watching that, they usually go and click on the long version of it and read the whole article. So it kind of shifts in so many ways, but I kind of I've been thinking through this most of the times, when we have TikTok nowadays with all the social media platforms, people are already just, if, for example, an accident happens somewhere in Tucson, they usually just take a picture of that, videos, and post them on Instagram. So how is that shifting when it comes to your news reporting?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely changed the way that we make news decisions, because you can find about something on Reddit or Instagram before you're going to read a whole article. Yeah, the Reddit community knows what's anytime I drive by something that looks sus, I go to Reddit first and see, and they usually know what's going on. So, it takes a lot of pressure off us, right? Most of my newsroom are interns. They have class schedules. We just don't have the bandwidth to cover breaking news. And I don't think that audience is there for breaking news. People, they're going to Reddit, they're going to Instagram. And so for us, it gives us the freedom to really kind of back away from some of those stories and really lean more into solutions journalism or stories about culture or community. Because we know that people
nobody's going to cover that.
Yeah, nobody's going to cover it. So
I think, that's a very good way of shifting. Because I was really wondering, I was like, how is the news, most people working the news outlets, how are they really processing this? Because it's really kind of anything happens instantly, it's already there. You find it, and then you can't say anything different from what's already on the media, because they'll call you maybe you're not so direct, maybe you're hiding certain information. So it's kind of a challenge when it comes to the news reporting. Yeah.
You worked as both a journalist and an educator. What skills or mindsets do you think students should start developing now if they want to lead with integrity in their careers?
I think empathy is super important, and critical thinking, of course. That's one of the things that we try to teach the most in news is it's really important that you don't just consume information and believe it, fact check, do that stuff. There's all sorts of ways to do that now, but I think AI has made it both harder and easier. But empathy for sure, the ability to put yourself into another person's shoes and try to think about what they've experienced to get them there, or maybe what they haven't experienced. That will translate across every career field. Like you were saying, medicine, doctors, they're so nice because they want to help people, but it's that empathy training that they've gotten. So, I think that's it, especially in the state of the world today, right? It's really important that we're looking out for and thinking of one another.
I know that journalists have to report on bad news most of the time. So how do you deal with having empathy but also not affecting you mentally?
Yeah, it does. That's just kind of the nature of the job. I did a lot of reporting when I was at the Star on gender-based violence in the athletics department here. And I also did a lot of court coverage involving child abuse and some pretty horrific murders. And that stuff just gets to you. But, having a supportive group of people around you that will let you talk, having tools that you can use. There's a great group called the DART Center on trauma journalism that has great tools about how to de-stress and whatnot. Really is there. And also remembering that you're a human. They used to teach, just don't react. If somebody's crying, don't cry back. Certainly don't co-opt an interview, but also don't fake emotion. If you are moved and you're going to have to spend all your time trying not to let that one tear slip, maybe it's okay to just stay in the moment and let it slip and listen. People appreciate knowing that the person talking to them is a human, and so it's there. I've seen a shift, luckily, over years, especially in the ways that we care about ourselves as reporters too. There used to be, it used to be widely understood that news is a 24/7 cycle, and we are always working, and that is not the case. It is really important to exercise, self-wellness and breaks, and understand that when your shift ends, it's okay for your shift to be over, and it's okay to not think about that anymore, and really separating yourself. So I'm trying to teach my newsroom that, especially amidst this chaos. We have a lot of people covering protests and vigils and whatnot, and it's just really important to recognize if you're not okay and take a step back. So,
has there been a news that you've reported on that was really difficult for you to process?
Oh yeah, yes. I spent several years digging into claims of domestic violence and sexual assault at the athletics department, and that was just troubling because it was like years worth and layers, and so many people knew. And I was hearing these stories from these vulnerable young people who went to the people that they were supposed to be able to for help and didn't get it, and that definitely took a toll. And that reporting process is tough too, because those stories have to go through so many layers of editing, and they go through legal reviews. And I remember crying on the phone to my editor after we had to postpone it, and I had to reach out to 11 women to let them know the story wouldn't be running. And it's just, the things like that take a toll on you. And there was some of that stuff that you see in courtrooms just really doesn't leave you. Like, I still vividly remember autopsy photos that I've seen. So it's really important to take care of yourself and recognize when you need help. I definitely started therapy while I was working at the Star and dealing with those topics, because it's tough to sit with. And even if it's not you experiencing it, you're living in those emotions for so long. For sure. Mental health resources, take advantage of as many of them as you can.
And for the fact that we are humans, even if you're like, it's not gonna affect me, it will affect you at some point without knowing, because you're human, you're consuming all that every day. And so when you were speaking about that, I was thinking so when it comes to editing, because you write the article and then it's passed to somebody else to edit it. So after they edit the news, maybe when it's about affecting someone's life, does the narrative change or does it stay the same?
It just depends on what type of editor you have or you are. I try not to be too heavy-handed. Sometimes the narrative does change a little bit, just in terms of if it's better told in a different order or whatnot. But for the most part, the editing process can be difficult, and I've definitely, when I was a reporter, was very resentful at times, but now that I'm on the other side of it, it's to protect everybody. It's to protect the sources and whatnot. But usually, I haven't had many situations where I've come back and had to change the narrative of my story, luckily.
That's great, because when it comes to editing, you have to make sometimes those tough decisions.
Yes.
If you're advocating for somebody and then once it's edited and somebody else has to report on it, sometimes the narrative always changes slightly, or sometimes all the important things are taken away. Yeah. I don't like that.
Yeah, and with some of those stories, like the ones about the athletic department, after we wrote the first one, I wrote one about the track team where we had talked to 8 athletes who had complained about widespread harassment and abuse. And after we wrote the first article, I heard from another dozen athletes. But I heard from a couple athletes who wanted to share their very positive experiences with these people who had really inflicted some serious pain on others. And I did not want to include those in the story, but my editor helped me to understand that is important, that, we tell both sides of the story. The other side had certainly gotten ample chance, and so really having 1 or 2 supportive voices wouldn't change the narrative that much, but it felt like a betrayal to those other people I had spoken to. So those are the things.
Because people usually take the good side always. They take the good side.
But a good editor can help you understand that, 2 people saying good things doesn't take away from 20 people saying bad things.
Yeah, that's true. So our next question is, starting something new often comes with doubts and criticism, mostly when we are students, because majority of us, you'll choose a major, you're just 18. By the time you're completing it, maybe you're 22 something. So you've seen things in different perspective, and you're like, I want to change my major. So that comes with a lot of fear and doubt, because you don't know what your parents are going to say. You've been paying for this, maybe through a scholarship. And so it's always a challenge to do that. So what were some challenges or pushbacks you faced when launching Tucson Spotlight, and how did you stay grounded in your mission?
Yeah, so I was my own worst enemy in this case. I didn't think I could do it. I thought that I didn't have the skills, or I wouldn't have the abilities to do this on my own. And so I started applying for jobs, and I interviewed and was offered a job as the spokesperson for Pima County Superior Court. And when I went to tell my mentor, who had kind of been advising me on when I was at Tucson Agenda and started that, she told me she was disappointed in me that I didn't believe in myself enough to try this. And that was a wake-up call and the kick in the butt that I needed to go, why would I not believe in myself enough to do this? And, turn down a very safe job, probably, to take this very big risk. But I needed someone to give me that kind of tough love and say, look, you gave up your career to try something new. Don't give it up again altogether. So I'm glad she did that. I'm appreciative of that. It was a little shocking at the time, but I really needed someone to shake me and remind me that I've always been a strong woman who makes decisions for myself and believes that I can do things. And why in the world in that moment would I not think that? So, but from there, it was pretty easy. I had a good circle of people on my side. I have friends that have started businesses, that have started nonprofits, that were able to really help and guide me along the way. And so it's definitely been a learning curve. Starting a news outlet when all you've ever done is be a reporter is something. But I mean, I think my experience teaching in this school helped a lot. So it kind of became natural and easy to shift. And at first it was just going to be me and my business partner at the time and a couple of part-time reporters. And we ended up, the advisor here at the time reached out and said that they had a handful of interns that needed internships to graduate. And so we brought them on, and people just kept reaching out. So, I mean, the need is really there for opportunities for students, and I'm glad that we've been able to provide those.
I think it's so important to have a mentor. Like, my mentor is my mom, and she's always telling me, Nicole, you have to study. She keeps reminding me. So it's very good to have that support at home or at your workplace, because as a person, as an individual, you don't know how much effort you can put in. It's the other people who know how much you're worth. And I think that's so important to have that specific support to keep on moving and to keep on growing as a person. So for our next question is, for students who want to create change but don't know where to start, what is one small but powerful action they can take while still in college?
Definitely get involved in the community. Like Tucson is such a cool place, full of really caring and dynamic people. And there are so many ways to get involved. You can volunteer somewhere, you can join a book club or some other group, but really get to know the community. And there's so much happening right now. It was really, I mean, it's been 2025 was a year, right? Like it was rocky and it was tough, but it was one of the nicest things that I thought I saw all year was when food stamps got shut down. I mean, that was awful, but to see the outpouring of support from the community, I mean, the food bank was, we did a food drive, so I was down there several times, and they had cars lined up to drop off donations, not to pick up food, but to drop off food. And so people really came together to help one another in a time when people were already struggling. Like a lot of people were federal workers who weren't getting paid, who were still helping others. And so I think that just really made me feel so hopeful for the future. And one other thing is Tucson has such an active group of young people working to create meaningful change in big ways. The Arizona Youth Climate Coalition is an awesome group that has, I mean, they have changed the future here in Tucson. They helped adopt a climate action plan for TUSD that's one of the most aggressive in the nation, really setting us up for success. And so I think we're a community that really values and encourages feedback from young people. And so if you want to get involved, there's a space for you to do that. I teach reporting public affairs when I teach here, and a lot of our city council members and our people that sit on our board of supervisors on our local governments have very young staffs. I mean, college students working on their teams in marketing and outreach and in advisory roles because they want to know what young people think. And so I don't know if every community is like that. If it is, I think we're setting ourselves up as a country for success. But I don't think it is. I think we're kind of special in that way, that we really just understand the value of young people and want to get them involved early instead of making you all sit back and wait until we decide that you're old enough and then welcoming you in.
For sure, that's true. Tucson community is one of those greatest community. I've been here for a few years and I can say that because like even from the guests that we usually interview on our podcast, usually like they are so inspiring and also encouraging. Each time they see us like doing this, they're like, oh, this is really great. I really want to be involved, because by the time we started, we were like, whom are we going to interview? Then we were like, we're going to reach out. So we started reaching out, and it's always a very positive feedback. They're always very interested to come on our podcast. Like we have podcasts for the whole of next week. We have somebody whom we're interviewing tomorrow. And they're just always ready to support the young people. So in whichever way they can, they're ready to do it. And like you talked about, like the interns, most of those people whom we are interviewing are having students interns who are interning for them, working for them in different capacities, which is great. And that's so special about Tucson than any other community, for sure. And so like when you were talking about earlier about when it comes to making decisions, when you decided to start the organization, like do you think like it's important for us to always share our ideas with other people? Does that help when it comes to decision making?
Definitely. And that's one of the things that I've appreciated most about being in this independent news space. Legacy media, those are kind of like the traditional outlets. There was always this sense of competition, right? And it doesn't feel that way here. It feels like a more collaborative space. We co-hosted a city council candidate meet and greet with the Arizona Luminaria last summer. We've teamed up with other outlets in other states. And there's just this huge sense of collaboration even outside of Southern Arizona. When I go to conferences or when I'm involved in fellowships, people are like so open and willing to share everything in a way that you don't expect. Like, this is a business, right? We're all still trying to make money, but right now I'm part of a nonprofit news business certificate program, and I can reach out to that cohort on the Slack channel for anything, and they'll give them to me. Like, we were sharing end-of-year fundraising campaign messaging with each other, and it's such a supportive space. And I think, you know, at some point when media became the enemy of the people, we really kind of had to band together and fight back against that, and I'm glad that that collaborative spirit has kind of stayed. You know, it doesn't matter who gets it first. It matters who gets it right. And if we can all get it right and help each other out, you know, I mean, we, on our daily newsletter, we link to other stories by other outlets that we're not covering because we believe in sharing the good work that other people are doing and in spreading the news. We can't write everything, but if somebody wants to know something, we'll happily send them to somebody else that has. So, I think just that spirit of collaboration and sharing has been really nice. I mean, it's interesting to see, like, as it feels like the world falls apart more around us. It's been nice to see, like, this outpouring of just kind of generosity in general.
That's a great spirit, because when one outlet thrive, the other also thrive, because like when one is like on the top of everything, there is a need for more. It means like everybody wants to listen to the news. Everyone wants to like learn more about what's happening in the community. And so there is also like a need of other people rising and other outlets as well. So that's really a good way of going around things and working together as a team.
Well, and we all do things differently well. Like, I mean, we don't cover sports. The Arizona Daily Star does an amazing job covering sports. The Luminaria does a great job with their border coverage. They've killed it with their library coverage. The Sentinel, they have one of the best government inside reporters ever. And so everybody's doing something different. None of us are doing the same thing. So there's really no need for us to look at each other as competitors.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So thank you so much for being with us. This has been a very great and inspiring conversation that we've just had this morning, since we are all working on the side of the news, although we are doing podcasting, but there's that line to it as well. So thank you for sure for coming in and spending time with us. We learned so much from you, and I think the whole community will be happy to listen to this conversation and learn so much about the news outlets.
Well, thank you so much for having me.